What is up, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to the Patriot Perspective. In just one moment, we're going to be talking with John Guandolo, former FBI agent and counterterrorism expert, about all the things you need to know about understanding the threat and how to keep you, your family, and your country safe.
News, current events, politics, and everything in between. This is your number one source for finding out the truth. Never censored, never apologetic, and always patriotic. You're tuned in to the Patriot Perspective with the people's proud patriot, Alan Lee.
All right. So now that we have video here, everybody heard the introduction. And welcome onto the show again one more time.
Thank you very much. Great to be on.
So I know you're super busy with everything that you're doing. The first thing that I kind of want to, just give you a brief moment to kind of introduce yourself, a little bit more personal than me kind of reading all the things that just kind of giving people the background to why you are the expert that you are. So if you just want to talk just a little bit about what you do and who you are and how you know what you know.
Sure. Thanks. Well, first of all, I grew up in Maryland, and my dad was a government employee, worked for the Smithsonian, and we grew up in a house that respected the government, respected the nation. My dad was a pretty frank person. It's probably where I got that from. And I went to the Naval Academy, and I went into the Marine Corps. I was a combat veteran, an infantry and reconnaissance officer. And I felt called out of the Marine Corps to go into the federal service, and I ended up in the FBI, which is where I think I was supposed to be. And all along that journey, the message that I learned was that if you work hard and focus and, put your heart into what you're doing and you do the right thing, you'll be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And that was absolutely true in my life because, I was a wrestler. I wrestled in high school and college. I wrestled at the Naval Academy, and I found along the way that was just that's a truth about life. But as soon as I started speaking truth about these threats, first the Islamic movement, and then the communists and the Islamic movement working together, which I did probably within a couple of years, maybe by 2007 or so. But really by 2009, kind of putting a full program together. Then what I found was I became a target, first inside the FBI, and then once I was recruited out of the FBI in 2008 by the Department of Defense, and I had the same experiences. And for your audience, what I think was fascinating for me, in the Marine Corps, I left the Marine Corps as a captain, not a senior rank by any means. In the FBI for my 13 years or so, I was most of the time, except for a few months at FBI headquarters as a supervisor up there, I was an agent. I was a ground agent. I put handcuffs on people. I traveled overseas to do investigations. We brought terrorists back to the United States. Did a lot of interviews and investigations on these guys and on the Muslim Brotherhood leadership and network here in the United States. And it wasn't until that where I realized working hard and telling the truth doesn't pay off inside the government when it comes to the bad guys like that. And so my adult life has been dedicated to this. It's been a weird journey. It's not the career path I would have chosen for myself, but I'm for whatever reason, I ended up being the guy who worked a few specific cases in the Bureau, which kind of opened my eyes to how bad it is in the United States and the significant jihadi network here. And this is the important thing. The very people our government leaders rely upon for help on how to deal with, terrorism or whatever word of the day we're going to call it. The reality is those people are our enemies without exception.
So, I mean, the average person who may not be as in tune to what's going on, you would think that the FBI would be patting you on the back for your discoveries and for giving them all these tips. What was that like? Were you aware, from the beginning that it was going to be a hard road within the department, or was how did that shock come upon you? And was it blatant, or was it kind of subtle that you kind of came across these hurdles?
Okay, that's a very good question. It was blatant. So the first real face-to-face confrontation came in 2006. So in 2006, I put together I actually did it in 2004 and 5, but we ran the first training program in the government. And we actually got FBI headquarters to give us some support for this, but I put the whole thing together. I got all the instructors. I've got the venue. I built the schedule. I built the whole thing. And it was a 2-week program, which in the government, that's almost unheard of. In the FBI, that's almost unheard of. There are only a couple courses that run that kind of length. And what we did was we laid out, here's what they're doing. Here's why they're doing it. They do it because their doctrine, Sharia, says they have to. And here's the network that's actually activating it. And here are investigative strategies and tools you can use at the federal level to do like a major strategic push, or at your, working with JTTFs at the local level. Here are some things you can do. That was kind of my point. Well, right after that, I got notified by some agents who had been in the training, 2 of the best agents in the country, in my opinion. And they said, hey, we just noticed that, because the course I ran in August of 2006. So it was the beginning, at either last couple of days, August or September 1st, somewhere right around there. I get a call from these guys. And they said, hey, Hamas, the terrorist group doing business as the Council on American Islamic Relations, is actually hosting a 9/11 event. And
wow.
And their point was, my guess is, those Christian and Jewish leaders don't know who these bad guys are, because they wear suits, but they're Hamas. So I actually reached out to the guy coordinating it, and his name was Daniel Tuttle or something like that. And I kind of explained it to him, and I walked him through. So this was on Thursday before Labor Day weekend.
Okay.
I came in on Tuesday, and I got called into the boss's office, and the next 3 levels of my chain of command were in there. And they're like, what in the hell did you do? And I said, what are you talking about? They're
Good job.
did you talk to this guy about? And I said, of course. They're like, why would you do that? I said, because they're hosting a 9/11 event. And in case you guys forgot, I was there picking up parts of human beings that these people had killed, their friends and allies, because CARE supports Al-Qaeda, just in case. And so does the Muslim Brotherhood Network.
Right.
The key elements. And I mean directly. They even publicly advocate for them right after 9/11. These groups, CARE, Islamic Society of North America, which is a massive Muslim Brotherhood organization. Muslim American Society put out a press release when Osama bin Laden was killed, calling him a visionary and a great man. The Islamic Society of North America's president, right after 9/11, did a CNN online chat and said, many Muslims support Osama bin Laden and his cause. They just don't agree with his tactics. But the fact they would say that on a national, mean, they were giving it to us, and
Well,
they still wander around. And so that was my beginning. That was my intro of trying to do this. And here's what I found out: this guy wasn't just a neutral actor; he was on the bad guy team. So as soon as we hung up the phone, he called Hamas, doing business as CARE. And by the time Tuesday morning camp come around, the leadership of Hamas called FBI headquarters, and the assistant director for counterterrorism called the assistant director of the Washington field office, who called the SAC, special agent in charge, who called the assistant special agent SAC, who called my supervisor.
So I mean, so you connected all the dots, and it's we like to think that our government, our FBI, and our investigators, we like to think that there's more than one out there who can connect the dots. Did you find anybody else who was on your side, who would stand up for you and say, look, we need to really do something about this? Do you think that, obviously, you said he was in connection, in cahoots with them, but was there anybody that wasn't? They were just kind of blind to it, ignorant, or do you think that it was something deeper that they kind of knew from the beginning? Where do you think the level was with their knowledge of what was actually happening?
So that's another really good question, Alan. So let me just pause for a second and say this: the primary thing that our enemy has done, but it was their objective, is to control how we understand them. So if I can demonstrate, and I can, that the Muslim leaders advising President Clinton, advising his Secretary of State and his Secretary of Defense were hostile, and that goes for Mr. Bush, Mr. Obama, Mr. Trump's administration, and Mr. Biden's administration. And I can show you that the people like Anwar al-Awlaki, the al-Qaeda leader who we killed in a missile strike in 2011, was actually giving talks inside Congress, invited to dinners and lunches at the Pentagon, and yet we killed him. And of course, what they say now is, oh, he was good when we saw him, but he was radicalized. No, he wasn't. He was bad from the time he was a teenager.
Well, so you mentioned radicalized. I mean, is there a such thing as radical Islam versus non-radical Islam?
No.
Or are they one and the same? Are there what we call progressive Muslims or millennial Muslims who they go around, and there was a guy that I knew, so I'm speaking from experience, who he was a younger guy, and now he didn't deny what Islam taught, but he was raised in a Muslim family. He was one who said he disagreed with A, B, and C of this and wouldn't do those things. And he actually voted for Trump. And I do believe that he wasn't following those things. He did accept that that's what it taught. But he said that he tried to say that the majority of younger Muslims think this way, and that's not really Islam. He did believe that some things were taken out of context. So, is there a such thing as radicalized versus what the media tries to tell us as, oh, the normal everyday Muslim doesn't believe these things and it's not what they teach?
So here's what normative and universally taught Islam says: that the purpose of Islam is to wage war against non-Muslims until the entire world is submitted to Allah's divine law, which is called Sharia, which comes from the Quran and the example of the Prophet Muhammad. And the Prophet Muhammad, ask a Muslim, especially do it in public with other Muslims around, so they will have to be straight with you. Is Muhammad the perfect example? You will not find a Muslim who will say no, because that's a death sentence in Islam. That's a capital crime to say Muhammad is not the perfect example. Well, Muhammad, in the most authoritative records of what he supposedly said, says that he said, I've been commanded to wage war, to fight them, meaning all non-Muslims, till they testify there's no God but Allah. Muhammad married a 6-year-old. Muhammad participated in torturing people. Muhammad condoned the taking of sex slaves. Muhammad himself participated in beheading up to 900 Jews after the Battle of the Trench. These are a matter of record in Islamic doctrine. And that's why they teach first graders around the world, including, if you look at the most widely used textbooks in U.S. Islamic schools, the primary one is called What Islam is All About. And there's nothing in there that contradicts what Al-Qaeda and ISIS teach, because that's Islam. And by the way, here's a good note. It's a capital crime in Islam for a Muslim to teach another Muslim something about Islam that's not true. So therefore, if you want to know true Islam, you don't ask your friend the Muslim, and you don't go to Barnes and Noble. Just go into a mosque bookstore with a wad of cash, buy one or two Islamic law books, or buy one 7th grade textbook and read it. You'll know. That's what they teach all Muslims all over the world. And the fact that the level of deception is so great that the entire Muslim world understands something like what the legal definition of jihad is, and yet our leaders don't. Let me put it this way. I think, Alan, this will be the simplest way I can say it. What Muslims teach 10-year-old Muslim children in U.S. Islamic schools about Islam is exactly 180 degrees opposite of what Muslim leaders in America tell U.S. leaders, non-Muslims, about Islam. So somebody's lying, somebody's being lied to. So the question you need to ask is, are Muslims lying to the Muslim children in Islamic schools about what Islam is, or are Muslim leaders lying to U.S. leaders? But somebody's being lied to, because the two stories are 180 degrees opposite. One story says what happened on 9/11 has nothing to do with Islam. Beheading people on a beach, setting fire to a Jordanian pilot, sawing people's heads off in places like Florida and Moore, Oklahoma. That has nothing to do with Islam. Nothing. What happened in Nice, France, what happened at Charlie Hebdo, nothing to do with Islam. Well, here's my challenge. Tell me, because all of Islamic law specifically supports all of that behavior I just mentioned. Where is the magical book of Islam that has unicorns and cotton candy on the front that doesn't teach that?
I mean, you've challenged people to prove you wrong.
I have.
Has anyone been able to do that on anything you've said?
Yeah, in 5 years, offering that if you can demonstrate that what I or my organization understand the threat, what we teach about Islam, specifically what Sharia requires, is wrong. If you can show us factually we're wrong, we'll stop teaching it and give you $1,000 cash. In 5 years, including emailing the leaders of the U.S. Muslim Brotherhood, who very well know who I am and I know who they are, nobody has claimed it because they can't. And that's the deal right there. That's the whole ballgame.
So that makes you wonder, it's one thing for people to be lied to, but when something's so obvious, are they being lied to, or are they working hand in hand? Or is our establishment so infiltrated that the ones that would make the difference are already the ones on the other side?
Yes, to all of those. Yes, to all of those. There are good people in the system who are, I still have colleagues in the FBI and the DOD at the State Department who are patriots. You and I could have a beer or whatever you like to drink and hang out, and you would realize, wow, these are great Americans.
Yeah.
But they are feeling like they have no home inside the FBI, inside the DOD, wherever, on either the civilian DOD side or the military side. Because what you just said is right. Every component of the government, from the Agriculture Department, State Department, Department of Defense, across the board, is totally and utterly corrupted. And if the fact that General Milley's not an overt communist, like a member of the Communist Party, his actions reflect what a member of the Communist Party, as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, would be doing. But what we do know is the former CIA director, John Brennan, publicly admitted he voted for the Communist Party candidate for president. We do know that James Comey, the FBI director, former FBI director, admitted in 2003 in a New York Magazine article, flat out admitted, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but this is almost verbatim, I was a communist, not sure what I am now, trying to find my way. Now, in a sane world, that guy is booted out of the government and there's an open investigation on him to see how much penetration, what did he give the adversary? But what we did was we elevated him throughout the Department of Justice and then made him the FBI director. That should tell you and everybody else that our system is catastrophic. A system that would promote a guy like that, who's an overt communist, that system is utterly broken. So here we are 18 years later wondering why things don't work. Shouldn't be a question.
Yeah. And I know that, we are short on time, so there's a lot we want to get to, but just to touch on, communism and the Islamic Nation, they go hand in hand. And I know you've taught that before, touching on everything from Black Lives Matter and everything that they're into, that they donate to the leaders of that. So one of the things that I do want to make sure that we talk about is your newest book. So if you just want to tell some of our viewers some about that and where they can get it as well, because I definitely think that that's something that they'd all should look into, and also some of your trainings and stuff like that you do.
Yeah, so thanks for an opportunity for that. So Islam's Deception, The Truth About Sharia, was written because there is a real lack of clarity, and has been since prior to 9/11, but certainly since 9/11, about who the enemy is and what they say they are and why they're doing it, why they do what they do. But if you simply read any book of Sharia, which most of them are published in English because the primary legal language in the Islamic world is English, because most of the biggest, Islamic countries in the world were British colonies, Indonesia,
right.
Pakistan. So their legal language is English. Just go pick up a book and read it. And you'll see, oh, look, it says it's obligatory to lie to non-Muslims if the goal is obligatory. Jihad means to war against non-Muslims. That's the legal definition. That apostates must be killed. All of that's right in there in black and white if you just read it. It's pretty simple. So that's what that book's about. But I wrote the book so it's about that thin because, I'm a Marine. I like to keep things simple. And so I write it for the average man and woman to be able to read and digest it. Of all the training we do, what understanding the threat does that no one else in the country does is we give tools to local communities so they can organize, identify the bad guys who are at the root of the corruption in the community, be they communists, be they jihadis, be they corrupt businesses or wealthy people that are funding chaos in your community. And we teach you how to identify these people and create strategies to rip them out of your community lawfully and to reestablish a Republican form of government, which the Constitution requires at the local level. And so we're getting ready to launch a National Security Academy next week. And the purpose of it is to not only use our flagship training program into action, which gives you everything you need to get organized at your local level, but we also are bringing every skill we believe patriots need in one place. It's a one-stop shop. So if you want to learn how to do research and figure out what's going on, that's the place. If you want to understand what actually are our founding principles that we're supposed to be fighting for, that's the place. If you want to learn how to get elected to your local school board, or you want to learn how to push back against your city council, or you want to learn how to get legislation passed at your state level, this is your one-stop shop. If you want to learn how to bring pressure on the bad guys and get them fired from their jobs, put so much pressure on them they leave your community, out them, we do that too. All lawfully. We don't do things that are nice, because I couldn't give a rip about being nice, because this is about restoring the American way of life at the local community and punting communists and jihadis out the door like a bad football. But that's who we are and what we do. We have significant national support, and we're talking with some of the people that support us about whether they'll go public. But I can tell you that guys like Mike Flynn totally support what we're doing, are advocating for us because they know we're the only game in town doing what we're doing.
So, where can people? Is this something that they have to travel to, or is this an online course? How can they sign up for that?
So the courses we run, we do both. So
Okay.
Into Action, we can bring to your town. The Train the Trainer, which is a 2-week program to teach people to do what we do. When we get the interest, we'll run one in person, but we do run both of those online. What the National Security Academy will give you, and we're rolling it out in phases. So in the first phase, you'll get the Into Action program, and then a few other very cool programs. And some of them you'll get like the first 4 lessons in like a 12-lesson course. But like the Civic Action is the one I'm talking about, has a lot of those interesting things. Like if you want to build a rally and get 5,000 people there, how do you actually even begin to do that? That's on there. If you want to learn how to talk to pastors about these kinds of threats, that's on there. So all of these things. We're also doing a civil preparedness course, which is going to have about, right now, I think we're up to like 14 to 20 courses that we're fleshing out. But, how do you actually build resilience in your community? How do you prepare? And it's not just about, having ammo and having, a case of MREs and some water. It's actually very thoughtful. And so all of that's in there, but also, what's the Iranian influence and Hezbollah influence in your community? Some people are like, oh, that seems too strategic. Well, but they're right there in your community in places like Kansas City, Miami, Dallas, right? They're, Atlanta, they're there. So we're teaching people how do you identify these things, and then what do you do? And taking actions that are thoughtful, that will have significant impact and be effective, but also that will have a long-term impact in your community. Because the goal, again, is you reestablish the Republican form of government, literally reestablish founding principles at the elementary school level and up, while at the same time flushing these people out of your community. So you're literally fortifying your community out to the county level. And then once you do that, you're helping others in neighboring counties to do that. I'm telling you, we have teams we work with around the country. Just talked to 2 of them today. The work they're doing is amazing, and they are literally beating up on the bad guys. And it's really cool because they're finally able to take their anger and frustration and direct it at really bad people in lawful and very devious and creative ways. And it's fun for them, but it's also awesome for them because they're actually doing real work and defending their communities.
And people can find out all about that on your website, understandingthethreat.com.
Yes.
As well as they can get your book on there. They can get your book on Amazon. So if they are going to go to Barnes & Noble to pick up a book, that's probably the book that they should get. So anything else that you wanted to add before we let you go? I did have one question that came in. It was, what security threat does the influx of unvetted Afghans pose to the U.S.? If you wanted to answer that just briefly.
Sure. So first, I would encourage you to go to our website, understandingthethreat.com, understandingthethreat.com. And if you go to our blog page, probably about 3 weeks ago, I wrote an article called Vetting the Unvettable. And the reality is, when you come to realize, and for those of you that don't know this, this is my whole career, but the Islamic advisor of President Clinton was a financier for Al-Qaeda who's in prison. People that went up to Capitol Hill and gave classes include people like Anwar al-Awlaki, the leader of Al-Qaeda in Yemen, who's dead now because we killed him. Anwar Hajjaj, who was the founder of something called Taiba International that funds terrorism. We have situations like, I'm not sure if you know this, the guy that was the assistant director for the FBI's Weapons of Mass Destruction Directorate was an Iranian-born Muslim. There's so many of these. The FBI director gave the FBI Director's Award to the president of the Islamic Society of North America in 2016, despite the fact that the largest terrorism financing trial in American history evidence revealed the Islamic Society of North America is not only a Muslim Brotherhood organization, it directly funds the terrorist group Hamas. So if we can't vet, or let me give one more example. Gumarov Kalimov was a ISIS commander before he was killed. And from 2004 to 2014, he participated in 5 State Department run trainings, including trainings in the United States, weapons and tactics training, and he was an ISIS commander. And when confronted with this, the State Department said he was vetted. Now, if we can't keep Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and Hamas out of senior government positions, you think we can vet Afghan people who don't even know their own birthday? I mean, this is a freaking joke, and it's dangerous. And what your folks need to understand is what you're experiencing right now in America is the intentional outcome of what our adversaries are trying to do, which is bring down the republic. This is intentional. This is not, a truck drove by and just books fell out and they are accidentally teaching Marxism in your elementary school. No, this is intentional. It's intentional that Al-Qaeda people wearing suits are inside the government. That's intentional. And the leaders, the governors and the mayors that are supporting it are doing it intentionally from our analysis for the most part. And it's much worse than that. But in the time, I just wanted to make sure that was as good an answer as I can give you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate your time with us. We went a little bit over, so I hope you don't you're not too upset with us. But thank you for coming on the show. If you have anything updates or anything, just let me know, and we'll try and get that out to everyone. Again, his book is Islam's Deception: The Truth About Sharia. That's the newest one. He's got some other ones out there. They are all good reads. So check out his website, Understanding the Threat. And hopefully we will see some good things from you and from the rest of our citizens standing up and taking back our country as well. So thank you once again.
Thank you. And thanks for what you're doing. What you're doing, I can't overemphasize. This is important to have an avenue to get the truth out. And it doesn't, I used to say in the Marine Corps, 10 people trained is 10 people trained. 10,000 people trained is 10,000 people trained. And you're building an army of people that actually learn and know the truth. So stay with it. I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. Same to you.
All right. Bless you.
Bless you. All right. Thank you for tuning in. Again, that was John Guandolo. His website is understandingthethreat.com. Make sure you go over there and look into everything that he is doing and get involved. As well, if you want to help support the show and become a Patriot partner, you can just go to the link in the description. You can go to our website, thepatriotperspective.com. You can donate there. You can subscribe, follow. If you're listening to this podcast on Apple, I appreciate a rate and review on there. Really helps us out. Head on over to our website. You can pick up some awesome, cool gear like the new shirt here, the 13 Never Forget. For the 13 service members that lost their lives in Afghanistan due to Biden's blunder. So thanks for tuning in, and we will be live next Friday at 6 p.m. with a special guest therapist, Liz from Liz Live, and she will be talking about the different mental situations and mental health situations that are going on throughout all of these lockdowns and these COVID and these vax mandates. So make sure you come back for that. Subscribe, hit like, hit follow, and we will see you on the next show.
News, current events, politics, and everything in between. This is your #1 source for finding out the truth. Never censored, never apologetic, and always patriotic. You're tuned in to the Patriot Perspective with the people's proud patriot, Alan Lee.